Spirits of the dead, spirits of the living, kindred welcome. Welcome to the Crossbones Vigil to honour the outcast, both dead and alive, where we do honour the outcast, both dead and alive, both outside and inside. We refresh and we renew the shrine, and we reclaim the Goose's secret history. Do feel free to come a little bit closer. Feel free to step inside the lines of death. I've already explained to some of you. Ten and Larry are tonight's Goose Samurai. And if the bikers won't go round us, they will move us gently closer. We the living have been coming to Crossbones Vigil every single month for the last 20 years. Last month was our birthday. We celebrated with cake and feather gifts. And this month starts the very beginning of the 21st year us holding vigil here. We the living stand on this side of the gates. We stand outside. We could nowadays, we started always on the outside. We could nowadays be inside if we wanted to, but we keep with the tradition of being outside because that gives us just a chance to feel what it must be like to be outcast, to be the ones that are on the outside of the gates and not let in just for a moment. On the other side of the gates, as you know, is Crossbones Graveyard. It's the last resting place, the last tiny, minuscule resting place for the mortal remains of 15,000 people. Women, men and children lie crammed in here, crammed together, one on top of the other. And they were so for 150 years before Crossbones Graveyard closed in 1853. It was one of St Saviour's burial grounds that was run by St Saviour's and St Mary at Overy, which is now Southwark Cathedral. So for about 150 years, it was their burial ground. It's been estimated if they buried people in this amount of space, with the proper amount of space for a proper grave, Crossbones would have been full up in 3 years. At least 150 years. And before that, well, what Crossbones also holds is the memory of not the very remains of the Winchester geese, who were the women who were the sex workers in the Liberty of Winchester. For 500 years, the bishops of Winchester owned, they were the landlords and ran this area that was a mirror, or you might say the shadow of the city, where over on the north side of the river, that was where everything was legal and above board was going on. The laws, the royalty, go on, carry on. And over here, and they locked the gates to the one bridge that connected the two. Over here was everything that wasn't wanted to be seen, wasn't decent. The bear baiting, the bullfighting, the cockfighting, the theatres, and of course the brothels. And in order to hold some kind of control over what really must have been like the Wild West, the bishops of Winchester wrote 164 ordinances or rules for the brothels and the women who worked in them, and the men as well. The men were called Molly Boys, but mostly they were ignored. The women were called Winchester geese because Winchester is their landlord. They're paying their rents and their fines to Winchester. And the ordinances legalized the women plying their prostitute trade. But when they died, they were denied a Christian burial. And the burial ground is said by John Stowe, who was writing about this in 1598, that there was a burial ground for the single women. A single woman is another euphemism, like a Winchester goose. It's a euphemism for a sex worker, a prostitute. Oh. A burial ground far from the churchyard. This is far from the churchyard. We can't be absolutely certain that these women are buried here, the Winchester geese, but we hold their memory. Crossbones holds their memory of these outcast people. Everybody in here is outcast to some degree or another. The majority of the people who were buried by the church, however hastily, it was a Christian burial that they received. They lived in one of the most overcrowded, disease-ridden places in London in those times. So we the living are on this side. They the dead are on that side. And it looks, and kind of, before you start thinking about it really properly, it looks as if, oh, we've got a barrier between us, the living, and them, the dead, between us who are in time and they who are in eternity. But actually, if you only use a small amount of imagination, you can see that this is a portal. That not only is it a barrier between the two, but it is an opening where a connection between these two worlds can be made. The world of the living, the world of the dead, the world of time, the world of eternity. And the goose, as she calls herself the daughter of eternity, brings that other world out towards us, which is why the closer we stand to the gates, the more powerful our experience is. She brings the world of eternity. She says, you think something's just a place. I say, she's a state of mind. This eternal state of mind comes out from the garden to dance in the most intimate embrace without time. In that dance, there's healing. In that dance, there's peace. We come together not as individual people, but just for one small, short moment, we allow ourselves to be part of one single unified consciousness. And each of us is a small spark in this shining emptiness. So as we step into our first ritual, which is called holding the light, we stand for one moment in silence, each of us being nothing more than that one spark in that infinite silence that holds us all together. And we use the candle. Where did Adrian? There you are, Adrian. Could you come and hold the candle? Adrian will hold this candle up so we've got a focus to focus our light on. That your light be part of that light, that the noises of the city just flow through you. We are nothing. We are air. We are water. Everything is flowing. I will ding the gong once. Step into the silence. And once again, everything is dark. come to honour the outcast, refresh and renew the shrine, and to reclaim the goose's secret history. The goose says, I come to reclaim the world that was taken. I feel like I am part of that world that was taken away. We've all been broken by the world that we live in. We're here, just like the goose, to reclaim bits that have been taken away. And while we practice what we do here, we also celebrate different things each month. So this month, July is the Magdalene Isis celebration, because yesterday, the 22nd of July, is the feast of St. Mary Magdalene. And we feel very close to Mary Magdalene because in the Bible, although obviously now we see it with different eyes and she was not a whore, for many hundreds of years she was classed by the Christian church as a whore. She and Jesus have got a magical kind of love relationship. And Magdalene Isis was brought to London with the Romans when they came. And there is evidence that there was an Isis temple on the shores of the southern shores of the Thames. A piece of pottery was found that says, Londini ad Farnham Isidis, which means in London at the temple of Isis. Living proof that there was a temple of Isis here on the South Bank, and many people, Burford, other people whose names I can't recall, I've got so many words flying around my head, who think that that temple of Isis lies at the very roots of Southwark Cathedral, at the very roots of St. Mary Overy. Wouldn't that be amazing? Isis as well has a very deep love relationship with her lover, Osiris. And these four characters, Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Isis, Osiris, kind of resonate with each other. And also, around this time of the year, the Nile used to flood. And this was the time of year for worshipping Isis. When the Nile floods, it feeds the land and the people. Let's feed the land and the people. Wouldn't that be lovely? So we're going to hear a bit more about Isis and the Magdalene as we go along. But the next thing we're going to be doing is our next ritual. Oh, I completely forgot to welcome the Zoom vigilants. Since lockdown, if you're anywhere in the world, you can connect to the vigil, come to the gates via Zoom, run by Jackie, led by Jackie, and connected by Natalie's magic. So if you want to know the address of the Zoom vigil, please leave your email address with Natalie. I would say leave it with me, but I've had some people, did you give me your name and address, your email address? I took some email addresses on Sunday and I managed, instead of transferring them to Natalie, I managed to make them disappear. So the best thing to do is go to technical department and give them straight to Natalie. So what we do now is we do our practice, the act of binding and loosing. The act of binding and loosing, where we hang ourselves, part of ourselves, our ribbons, our gifts, our prayers, however you'd like to see it, onto the gates and then walk away. We bind and we loose by walking away. Here's another practice. 5 years ago tonight, although I didn't know that it was happening, my son died. My Gary, he was 46. He lived in Wales. And while I knew there was something wrong, I didn't know. Thought actually he'd gone mad. Didn't know that he'd gone. But I came to the vigil and I hung a ribbon for him. in the hope that he would be alive. And in a sense, he is alive. I'm the one that's got the broken wing. I'm the one that is having to practice radical acceptance. Just by attaching something of our own and then walking away from it, we practice that radical acceptance. We can then carry it out into our lives or just forget it. But for me, this is a practice, and especially with those losses. Many of you will have had those losses. You understand exactly what having to practice radical acceptance. We always hang things on the gates. When we started, we were few, and everybody brought their own ribbons or gifts. And as time went on and more people came, it became obvious to us that people weren't bringing their gifts. So we started bringing bundles of 23 to hand out to people to hang on the gates as our giveaway for you to make your giveaway. I honestly didn't expect this number of people. So some of you will have to, would you hand them out this side? And would you hand them out this side, please? If you've brought your own gifts, now is the time to get them out. If you've not brought gifts and you don't get a ribbon, what you will do is you make an invisible ribbon. You will make your virtual ribbon, just like the Vigilers are doing on the Zoom, because they might have ribbons, but they've got only virtual gates. So we've got real gates, and some of you have got virtual ribbons. So we hang our ribbons on the gates to what we call the echo prayer, which is not really a prayer. It's really a statement of what we do. And when you hear it, you'll understand what I mean. I will say it, and the people who know the words already will say it and will kind of echo it back to me. And if you don't know it, but hear a word that you want to repeat, or you hear anything that you'd like to repeat, then please feel free to do that. If you're a bit doubtful of what might I hang on the gates, one of the very best suggestions I've ever heard is think of the person who is your most mortal enemy and then wish them all the good things that you wish for yourself. So we repeat the echo prayer 5 times, in which time, really and truly, even if you haven't got a ribbon, come and hang yourselves on the gates in a way. Get as close as you can. Here, lay your hearts.
Here lay your hearts, your flowers, your book of hours, your fingers, your thumbs, your miss you mums. Here hang your hopes, your dreams, your might have beens, your looks, your keys, mysteries.
Your mysteries.
Here lay
Here,
your hearts,
lay
your
your hearts,
flowers,
your flowers, your
flowers,
flowers,
your fingers, your thumbs,
your thumbs,
your mums.
your miss you mums.
Here hang your hopes, your
hopes,
dreams, your
your
might
might
have beens, your locks, your keys, mysteries. Here hang your hearts, your flowers, your book of hours, your fingers, your thumbs, miss you mums. Here hang your hopes, your dreams, your might have beens, your locks, your keys, your mysteries. Here lay your hearts, your flowers, your book of hours, your fingers, your thumbs, your miss you mums. Here hang your hopes, your dreams, your might have beens, your locks, your keys, your mysteries. Here lay your hearts, your flowers, your book of hours, your fingers, your thumbs, your miss you mums. Here hang your hopes, your dreams, your might have beens, your locks, your keys, your mysteries.
Here hang your hats, your tree, your mighty, your key, your listening. When we first started coming here 30 years ago, we only used to come to the gates once a year at the Halloween of Crossbones, and we would wear a ribbon like this. Each of us would come with the name of somebody we believed to have been buried in Crossbones. We would go through our ceremony with their ribbon each tied to our wrist. And then we would process to the gates and liberate them and ourselves from each other. And the ribbons would dance in the wind. Yeah, they dance in the wind. The wind of change. What to say? Our next ritual is called the Sacred Offering. And this is where we step aside, sandwiching the sacred offerings with goose words, and we invite other people to come and bring a short offering to offer to all of us. A song, a poem, something about somebody that you've loved and lost, anything really. All we ask is that it's not an open mic, but what you say, you sing, you recite has got something to do with Crossbones by your own light. We are not judging what you think Crossbones, your relationship with Crossbones. If you think it's right, then it's right. So can I have a little show of hands, please, to see who would like to offer something? Dave, 500, yes. Would you like to offer your poem, sis? Oh, there's Mary's over there, that's 3, yes. Yes, so, if you feel that, and you haven't said you want to now, if you feel cool, just offer when we're halfway through. That's not the end of the thing. And like you've just noticed, when I'm talking, very often the city interferes. If you've got a quiet little voice, are you going to offer as well? Fine. If you've got a quiet little voice, especially if the city is interfering with you, in order to help us hear you, raise your voices so those people up there could hear you, and then all the people down here will definitely hear you. So to open and to close, goose words. When John channeled the goose all those years ago, and it ended up being called, this is her teachings, the Goose's Secret History. It ended up being called the Southern Mystery. So when we practice this part of the ceremony, we always open and close with goose words to make sure that we're hearing this Goose's Secret History. Otherwise, how can we reclaim it? So Isis Magdalene. Londini ad fonum Isidis. Here Isis wept for her children, sold into bondage in slave mart by river of Babylon, Queen Hythe to Grope Cunt Lane. Here, Rome converts to cannibalize in bull and creed. Here, one converts to cannibalize in full and creed body of Christ, spitting and Touretting where Tully the torturer slews down Crucifix Lane. Here, Magdala returned in ovary, body of the whore dunked in St. Thomas Culvert, dunked in the river and rose again. Would you like to proofread it first? Do it first, get it out of the way. Hold on, Sue. Praise me on the It's always a surprise. I came to the Bards and Blessings on Sunday and was really, really moved by the whole procession there. The blessings and then the bards. And I was even more touched by the offerings, by the ordinary folk like myself who came along to experience what Crossbones means to our community, to ourselves, to the people who spent a lot of time making this possible and keeping it going. Apologies, I need to just... On my journey home, I'll try and raise my voice, I'm sorry. On my journey home, I wondered why I never had a poem. And I also wondered, why wasn't I angry? Because a lot of what was talked about was the anger about the way it's been evident women have been treated over the millennium. And the whole purpose of Crossbones is to illuminate and to remind us, actually, we haven't forgotten those people, those special souls, our sisters, and some of them our brothers. So I found myself writing a poem in my head, and it's very small, very short. I felt it was quite important. And I told Jennifer, because she's my friend, and she said, do it. So here I am. I'm not angry. Not angry. Not angry. Not angry enough. I realized I'm not angry enough. And then it went to, am I enough? Am I enough? And does this anger come from not feeling enough? Be angry, love angry, share anger. Enough. I'm not angry enough. I'm not angry enough. I am angry. I am. I am. And I am enough. I am enough. And that's what Crossbones has given to me via Jennifer, who is a very precious gift. I am so blessed to have her literally round the corner from me. Thank you. You can sit down. Thank you. Who's next? Me. Oh, Dave 500 in the corner. Come ahead, love.
You're starting away there. You're starting away. Right, I'm Dave 500. Hello, Zoomers everywhere. This has got 3 parts to it. The first part is how I got to Crossbones Graveyard. Second is how I got the 500 number. And thirdly, the other reason I visit Crossbones. I'm actually here for my son, whose picture is on the gate over there. But anyway, part one, I watched a program called History Cold Case in 2010. A number of skeletons were removed from this graveyard prior to the building of a substation for London Underground. Over there. After a very thorough forensic examination, they actually named her as Elizabeth Mitchell, aged 19. She died in 1851. It was a late burial, so her bones were very close to the surface. Genealogical records were used, like hospital records, workhouse records, death registers. That's what brought me here. But since then, I had a whisper in my ear some time ago to say that the latest info is not Elizabeth as previously identified. But I will also say I will stick with the info that I have already until the truth comes along. Right, part two. Okay, I come to Crossbones Vigil to see what it was all about. While I was here, people asked me to sign a petition to save the graveyard from the building of office blocks. So I went home that evening and went on the petition website and signed. After about 3 days, I came back to the website and surprisingly enough, I found I was number 500. From then on, I was known as Dave 500 from Birmingham. Right, and right, part three. So I came to the vigils every month. The planes were always going by. I came to the vigil every month. Then on 11, I don't like those numbers too much. My son said to me, Dad, I'm going out with my friends to have a pizza at the Hollywood Bowl. So I said, okay, I'll see you later. But that was the last time I ever saw him. I brought him up from when he was 4 years old. His mum left home. I gave up my job. I taught him about electronics and he became a top engineer. Most of this electronics was channeled towards pirate radio. You've all heard of pirate radio. And his services were being needed at the time. He had a hand in keeping pirate radio going around London. I also helped him. He became well known in those circles and was known as Brimstone, or Brim for short. I know he was writing to prisoners in the USA, but I didn't take too much notice of that at the time. Then I found out after he passed, he had empathy, although I did not know at the time, but I did then. This was his sixth sense, and he helped many people get on the right track. And behind the scenes, he helped those with mental, psychological, and relationship issues. He stopped 2 people committing suicide, one of which I've been in touch with now and again on Facebook. She now has a partner and 3 children and living a happy and rewarding life, and can't thank Jason enough for what he did for her. I'm so proud of him. Thank you all for listening. Brimstone not forgotten. Thank you very much.
Greetings to those of you here in the flesh. Greetings to those of you here in spirit. A greeting to those of you here on Zoom, somewhere in between. It's kind of uncanny. I think that you should speak about this today, Dave. But I wanted to speak about suicide today because I've just been volunteering with a charity called Bridge Watch, and me and my little puppy that we just rescued for Christmas, we walk along the bridges and look for people who might need our help. And on my first shift, we came across a young man who was staring out over the bridge and considering jumping in. And with my charming puppy's help, some of you have met him, he is very, very attractive. We persuaded him to talk to us and unburden himself. And happily, he joined us for a cup of coffee. This is, by the way, 9 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. Perhaps not the time of day that you might think somebody would be doing that, but there's no rhyme or reason for when we get to the end of our tethers. And sometimes all it needs is somebody to reach out, somebody to know that you're wanted. And because I've now done a bit of the training, I would like to just say to you all, if you know somebody that might be feeling that way, talk to them, reach out to them. It's okay to say that word suicide. I think like the word death, you know, we're a bit afraid of using that word suicide. It's a bit superstitious. We don't want to say it in case you're not going to make it happen by saying that word. So do say to them, have you ever thought of suicide? You know, and sometimes that can make somebody wake up and just realize how desperate they are. I would highly recommend getting a bit of basic training about how to talk to people, because I just think it's such a valuable thing we can all do. But this fan here was given to me by my friend Cassius, who killed himself in 1991. And I will never forget it. He was such a beautiful, beautiful person. And he told me that he was thinking that he thought of killing himself all the time. And because I was young and stupid, I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know that I should have said something to somebody. I didn't know that he would do it, and he did it. And I'm heartbroken to this day, even all this time later. So, but I'm very happy to say that we were able to interrupt what was happening on Thursday with this young, beautiful man with so much to live for. And if anyone wants to join me at Bridge Watch anytime, they're looking for volunteers. So just to share.
Armani, please come forward.
Hello, my name is Armani. This is a poem I wrote semi-recently, and I felt that it was appropriate to read it today. I have not very much spoken much today, but I read it now. I pray for returning, a sudden and continuous restoration, burning sorrows for uncaged joys, and picking from the vine renewed. O fruitful and fertile, where though the sun sets, his warmth breathes a soft-spoken lullaby on the skin in the nights. I pray for flowing waters filled with relief, where tears have run dry. Nigadika al tawahti wa al-haki memleka lo nitrah. Before you, all my desires, my sign from you, not just hidden. Thank you.
Wow.
It shows the Was there somebody else before?
For Larry.
Was there somebody else? Was there somebody else before Larry? Because I'm going to take over from you, Larry, if it's just you. Come on, stop hiding.
Magically, I hope the book is going to open where I want it to. You're close, we're close. There we go. In 1996, when John had the vision, received the goose, he recorded it in this book, Son of Mysteries. But he's a very naughty cunt, because what he did was in the goose's prophecy in the vision books, he said that in the month July, and the day shall be 23, in the year of Our Lady Obrey, various things should be happening, something should arise. Only last year, very special day like this day last year, the 23rd of July, 2023, stars aligned, coalesced, whatever. The blessings and bards ceremony was on the same day, the Sunday, as the vigil in the evening. And John came down, come up from Glastonbury for that. So it was a fantastic day, full of symbolism. And what John had found after 26 years, he was going through his notes. I can't remember who with, but someone was going through John's notes with him. And suddenly John realised that he'd used a bit of artistic license. When he said the year of Our Lady Mary Obrey, what he'd actually written down when the goose talked to him was in the month July, and the day should be 23, in the year of our Lord, 2023. We'd all been wondering when the year was, when the goose's prophecy was going to be fulfilled. It's last year. So the goose was well and truly let loose last year. I'm not going to read out the whole of it, but there were some bits in there that I think made an impression on me, because one of the people who criticised the goose was saying, and the hypocrite shall blanch, does she sanction such depravity, great whore of revelation? Is this not surely she? And the goose replied, relax, dear, you're over here. Don't go busting an artery or poisoning the rivers with your self-loathing bartery. And that got me thinking about the rivers and Revelation, because in Revelation there is I'm not religious, by the way, so I'm not doing this from that view, but in Revelation, I'm not looking for connections. In Revelation, when the angels done the trumpets and the seven seals and all of that happened, one of the things they said was that wormwood started, it was going to fall from the sky, it would make the waters bitter. A third of the waters across the earth would be made bitter. And lots of people wouldn't drink the water, and there would be deaths and all the rest. So that sounds very grandiose, doesn't it? And yet, looking up the statistics in England, 86% of our rivers are now virtually dead, polluted, bitter. A third of the rivers in Northern Ireland, I think, are okay. That means 2/3 are not. Half the rivers in Ireland, no good. So Revelation was saying a third of the rivers would be dead, undrinkable. We've gone past that. It's worse than that. So that gets you thinking, hold on, are we in this tribulation now? Are we halfway through it? Interestingly, wormwood's the name for a bitter. It's the Artemis absinthe family of plants. It's bitter. That's what wormwood is. It's a bitter thing. And that's why it turns the waters bitter. And Chernobyl is a Russian name for bitter. And the Russians thought that the Chernobyl event was actually a demonstration that the prophecy had occurred, because when Chernobyl went, obviously we all know what happened there. So Chernobyl is their word for bitter, and they've actually got an angel statue there at Chernobyl, really saying, look, this has happened. We're in this place now where this has happened. I ended on a bad note there. I should have started on that and ended with the other bit. But just to say, the connections, I just
feel that, you know, with the Revelation, the Whore of Babylon, or Revelation, there's just some just little clues there. You know, watch out for signs. We all see different signs, don't we, of things going on. It means more to some of us than it does to others, but there are signs out there. What they mean, what you make of them, is up to you. But it just struck me that in that book, the Goose's prophecy was just giving us a little heads up there. What happens is fate. Nothing's fixed. Time isn't fixed. We've all got free will. Time's plastic. All different probabilities out there. So who knows when it's happening? But I do know that last year, on the 23rd of July, the Goose was well and truly set loose in this place. So everyone can access her now. And good luck to you. It's a good ride.
John Crow said he said to the Goose once, "When's the Goose apocalypse going to happen?" And she said, "It's already happened here." She's pronounced the end of time and the beginning of eternity. Do we have any more volunteers to step forward? This last poem I recited started here. This poem I'm going to recite is called Here. Here. 2,000 years, mouth stopped with a stone in the belly of a well in Mary Overy. Here, 2,000 years of empire, 2,000 years of X-rated flesh did not defile the daughter of eternity. Here, Magdala in Overy reveals her Goose's heresy. In Thames mud, larking with the child born at liberty. Here, Jesus walks on the Sea of Galilee. Laughter echoes in the Garden of Gethsemane. It's all right, you can applaud. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We've come to the end of our vigil, this month's vigil, and we've got just one more ritual to do. Larry, will you seal us in with the gin, please? What we do in this last ritual, we all gather at the gates, either in body or in the virtual, and we hold ourselves onto the gates. We get as close as we possibly can. If you can't find somewhere to touch the gates, find someone who's touching the gates and touch them, if it's all right with them. Larry is going to seal us in with gin. We use gin as our sacred offering because this is what people back in the day would have used for their own comfort. It's an outcast drink, or was an outcast drink. Was that Jennifer? Nick, would you like to join us? Sleeping, can you get in amongst all the people and hang on to the gate? Larry's going to seal us in. We do 2 blessings, and they're both echo blessings. So what we do is I will say a phrase and you will repeat the phrase back to me. Yes, Larry, yeah, your gin gen. So yeah, while you're touching the gates, have a little look through. See if you can tell the difference between over there and over there. Me, there's a bigger there. I could easily be, but I think I'm not. Life.
Life, health, happiness, open pathways,
open pathways,
happiness,
Open
open pathways, peace in the
Wish.
spirit. Oh, it's this that we wish. For our friends,
Friends and family.
our friends and family,
For all our siblings.
siblings,
all our siblings.
Relations. For all our relations.
all our relations,
They've
And for
changed
all
it.
humanity.
and for all humanity,
Do we wish.
and for the goose and the crow.
Yes,
For
indeed.
our friends and family.
For our
For
friends
all our siblings.
Siblings,
and our siblings,
For all relations.
for all our relations,
And for all humanity.
and
for
for
all
all
humanity.
humanity.
May you never be hungry.
Goose,
Goose,
may you
Goose,
never
may you
be
never be
hungry.
hungry.
May you never be thirsty.
Goose,
Goose,
may you never be thirsty.
May your spirit fly free.
Goose,
Goose,
may your spirit fly
fly
free.
Hurrah!
And so she does.
That is one beautiful dolphin. Thank you all so much for coming. When you come back, please feel free to bring your own ribbon, your own gift. Hello, beauty. I'm still offering the shortest tour in the universe. There are 2 more tours in August and September. We start on the outside and we end up on the inside. Lunchtimes, some Thursdays, the dates around the corner, or you can get the dates out of Vigilante, which is our monthly newsletter. If you want to take part in that and you'll get all the information, please contact Natalie. Is there anything else I can say? We are going to be passing round the pirate's hat. John bequeathed the captain's hat to us, but nobody's brave enough to wear it. So what we do is we use it as a collection box. I shall move amongst you like God in a mysterious way. And if anybody would like to contribute to the cost of running the vigil, please feel free to put something in the hat. Thank you. Very much. Thank you. Also, if anybody would got a pair of strong arms for about 10, and Larry to bring back the road closure sign so we can tuck them back in the garden. That would be fantastic.
Yay! Hello, everyone. So,
Hello.
hello, and hello, Facebook. There's quite a lot of people watching on Facebook. They're having a very lively time on Facebook, having a little chat. So, here we are. Well, thank you for being here, everyone. I know I've got a poem to read out that somebody sent me on Facebook. Would anyone else here like to make some offerings? Because I'm conscious that we don't get an opportunity to offer anything in that space. But you'd be very welcome to do that now if you want to. And I'm still recording the vigil and we're still on Facebook. So it's only the gates that we're not connected to. So we're still in our vigil if we want to be. So does anyone want to say anything or offer anything?
I'd love to read the poem that I read on Sunday.
That would be lovely.
It was my birthday a week ago, and on Sunday that was the first time I'd ever read a poem that I'd written, and I wrote it just before I had some really further unexpected news from the hospital that I've just been navigating this past month, and there's been a lot of soul squeezing recently, so it was beautiful to be able to offer that in a garden, and listening to a lot of the offerings talking about suicide and how things have been for me today, I did feel challenged, but also very, very held. So I think it would be quite an affirming thing to remind myself of my intention of this transition of turning into 38, which I hope is a lot better for me than turning 37. So a purely selfish exercise that I hope you can come along for the ride.
Amen.
Okay. All right. It doesn't yet have a title, so but here we go. I do not need to be rewilded, for I was never tamed, but a succession of doing the work, the calming of dissonant beliefs is welcome, and of the introspection, inspection, scrutiny of hypervigilance, and a cacophony of foreign voices that seek to drown out the steady beating of my heart. That familiar territory I once knew, stayed a while in its cavernous halls, till it was only safe enough to run, carrying it all, and find myself still, running, still. Perhaps fallow is a position of trust. There does not need to be a plan or a course to chart, a star to follow. I can ungrit my jaw, begin to exhale, discover my inner mind, the rejoy of my imagination. My heart can learn to be my compass, make friends with time, welcome yearning. And from that wildflower meadow with all its colour, glorious splendour, in wild abandon, I can grow a glen.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. That was very moving, Beth. Thank you for sharing that with us. What a privilege to hear that. Thank you. And Beth read that at the Blessings and Bards, didn't you, on Sunday? So that poem was heard by people at the ceremony on Sunday, which is such a moving thing when if people don't know, the clergy from Southwark Cathedral come and they bless the ground, but mostly what they do is they offer a service of regret for what the church did to the women who were buried there. And it's very, very touching. And one of the things was years ago, there was a whole conversation about whether the church should come and consecrate the ground, because of course it's an unconsecrated graveyard and there are 15,000 people buried there. And they said, we'll come and consecrate the ground. And there was a whole conversation about, no, because the bodies have consecrated the ground already. We don't need the church to do that. Maybe you could come and ask them for forgiveness instead. Like, this was what the conversation was. And so now they come and do a service of regret on Mary Magdalene's feast day, which is really beautiful. And I always slightly regret the whole thing about Mary Magdalene wasn't a prostitute, because that's like saying there's something wrong with being a prostitute. Do you know what I mean? Like, this whole energy around, no, she wasn't a prostitute, she was a good woman. I think it's just awful. And I celebrate that she and sex workers are being reclaimed by Crossbones for all that they are and all that they mean in the world. So, you know, Mary Magdalene's feast day is a very powerful day for Crossbones, and I think for all of us who are honouring the prostitutes who are buried there, you know, it's a really important day. And that the church come and do a service of regret for what they did to the women there and how they judged them and how they wouldn't let them be buried in consecrated ground is an amazing thing and deeply moving. And Beth read her beautiful poem there on Sunday, so we've had a little tiny bit of what happened on Sunday here in the Zoom, which is really lovely. So thank you, Beth, for bringing that. I've got a poem now by Kaz on Facebook. Let me find it. So this is from Kaz Linda Pentland, who shared it with me to be read out. So here we go. This is Kaz's poem. Dear Goose, did you cry and sigh, maybe lie, when your burdens grew high, when solace seemed nigh under a cold, damp winter sky? Dearest Goose, did you dream of sublime homes with majestic thrones that you could call your own? but was still the unknown. An outcast so pretty, you were strong, wise and witty, wandering streets so gritty, but laughter was your light. We remember you, dear goose, as your soul soars high, amongst moonlight, balmy air, gentle winds that do sigh. The air smells of roses, with pretty angelic poses that wrap you and keep you safe. Know you are loved, remembered and understood, deep in the heart of your faith. Thank you, Kaz. I love that poem. It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it for me to read. That was an honour to do that. Does anybody else want to say anything or read anything? Ruth, who's here, has done a purple heart for you, Kaz. I'll just say that because Kaz can't see the chat. So it's really lovely. Would anyone else like to say anything before we end? Kaz says you're welcome. Thank you, Kaz. Shall we end then? Thank you everyone for being here. It's very beautiful that we were all here. Really lovely. So we'll be here again next month, of course, on the 23rd at the same time, and it would be lovely to see you again. It was an absolute joy to spend the time with you and to hold the space that we do for people who aren't able to get to the gates, or sometimes there are people here in Australia and it's 4 in the morning and things like that. So to hold that space feels really important, but also for those of us who can't get there for whatever reason that might be, and there are many reasons around, you know, where we are in the country, disabilities, illnesses, our circumstances, all of those things. It is a privilege to hold this space open for all our connections to stay true to Crossbones. So thank you very much, everyone, for making that possible by being here. Ruth, it's lovely to be here, if only for a little bit. You're all right, Ruth. Nearly everyone came in right near the end, didn't loads of people came quite late, so it was really nice. There was a sudden there were 3 of us for a long time, and then suddenly there were lots of us, so that was really lovely. And thank you to Facebook as well for being here. Of course, this beautiful poem, Kaz. Yes, it was beautiful. Thank you to Facebook for being here. The Facebook contingent are very lively these days and very present. So thank you to you as well. And I will see you all next month, I hope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goose, be with us.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Facebook.